The emergency landing. The distress beacon pierced the silence of deep space, its irregular pulse drawing Medical Officer Raven Harrison's attention away from her research notes. She leaned forward in her chair, dark eyes narrowing as she studied the signals pattern on her ship's console. The Mercy's sophisticated detection systems indicated the beacon originated from the surface of Kepler 186f, a supposedly uninhabited moon orbiting a gas giant. "Computer, analyze signal pattern," Raven commanded, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The response was immediate: unknown origin. Signal contains biological distress markers consistent with severe trauma. Raven ran her hand through her close-cropped black hair, weighing her options. As a medical research vessel, the Mercy wasn't equipped for combat or rescue operations. But the Hippocratic oath she'd taken extended beyond human life, at least in her interpretation. Plot intercept course, she decided. And prep the medical bay for possible xenobiological intervention. The descent through Kepler 186f's atmosphere was treacherous, with violent electromagnetic storms buffeting the ship. Through breaks in the cloud cover, Raven glimpsed a landscape that seemed to pulse with bioluminescent life, vast fields of crystal formations that glowed with an inner light. The crash site was impossible to miss. A sleek vessel of unknown design had carved a half-mile trench through the crystalline terrain, its hull breached in multiple places. As Raven guided the Mercy to a landing nearby, her sensors detected a single life sign, weak but persistent. Donning an environmental suit, she emerged into the alien landscape. The air was thick with suspended crystalline particles that sparkled in her helmet lights. Following her scanner's guidance, she made her way to the wreck's primary hull breach. The sight that greeted her stopped her in her tracks. Among the twisted metal lay a humanoid figure unlike anything in Earth's xenobiological database. The alien skin was pale silver, seeming to shift and ripple like liquid mercury. Delicate crystalline formations protruded from her joints and spine, each one pulsing with a fading inner light. But most striking were her eyes. They were faceted like diamonds, reflecting Raven's helmet lights in rainbow patterns. "I'm a medical officer," Raven said, activating her suit's universal translator. "I'm here to help." The alien's eyes focused on her, and a weak voice echoed in Raven's mind, "The hunter ships, they follow. Must hide." Raven's medical scanner revealed massive internal trauma and a unique circulatory system that was rapidly failing. The alien's blood appeared to be a crystalline suspension that was breaking down. Without intervention, death was minutes away. A crazy idea formed in Raven's mind. Her research had focused on universal healing factors in human blood, theoretical applications for interspecies medical treatment. It was untested, dangerous, and probably illegal under half a dozen Earth protocols. "I'm going to try something," Raven said, already connecting a transfusion line from her suit's emergency medical system to the alien circulatory ports. "It might kill you, but you're dying anyway." As her blood began flowing into the alien system, the crystalline formations suddenly flared with brilliant light. The alien's back arched, and a psychic scream tore through Raven's mind. The mercury-like skin began to ripple and change, developing intricate patterns that pulsed in time with the human blood now flowing through alien veins. When it was done, the alien lay unconscious but stable. Her appearance had already begun to alter, the crystalline formations now had a reddish tinge, and her skin had developed a more organic texture while maintaining its metallic sheen. Raven's scanner showed something unprecedented: the human blood wasn't just being accepted, it was being transformed and integrated at the genetic level. The alien's entire biological system was reorganizing itself. As she worked to stabilize her patient and prepare for transport, Raven's comm system picked up distant signals. Multiple ships were entering the system, their energy signatures matching nothing in her database. The alien's warning echoed in her mind: "The hunter ships, they follow." Raven made her decision. "Computer, prep for emergency departure." And encrypt all medical logs, classification level Omega. As she carried her unconscious patient to the Mercy, the first hunter ship breached the atmosphere above them, its hull bristling with weapons. Whatever she'd just started by sharing her blood with this alien, Raven knew their troubles were only beginning. She wouldn't learn until later just how right she was, or that her simple act of compassion would reshape the relationship between humans and alien life forever. Metamorphosis. The Mercy's medical bay hummed with activity as Raven monitored the rapidly changing vital signs of her alien patient. It had been 12 hours since the emergency transfusion, and the transformations were accelerating. The alien, who had managed to communicate that her name was Lyra, was evolving before Raven's eyes. Remarkable, Raven muttered, studying the latest cellular scans. Her human blood hadn't just saved Lyra's life, it had triggered a cascade of genetic adaptations. The crystalline formations along Lyra's spine now pulsed in perfect synchronization with her newly hybrid heartbeat, and her mercury-like skin had developed intricate, shifting patterns that seemed to reflect her emotional state. Lyra's eyes fluttered open, the faceted surfaces now bearing a subtle amber tint that reminded Raven of human irises. "The pain, it's gone," Lyra spoke, her voice carrying both vocal sound and telepathic resonance. "But everything feels different. Your body is adapting to the human genetic material," Raven explained, helping Lyra sit up. "It's unlike anything I've ever seen. Your cellular structure is rewriting itself, becoming a true human-alien hybrid." Lyra stretched her arms, watching in fascination as the crystalline formations flexed with her movements. "I can sense more. Your thoughts, your emotions, they're like colors in my mind." She turned to Raven, her expression troubled. "This is why they hunted me. My people, the crystalline collective, they feared this possibility." "What possibility?" Raven asked, though a sense of dread was already forming in her gut. "Evolution. Change." Lyra's skin rippled with dark patterns of anxiety. "The collective has remained unchanged for millennia, our crystalline forms pure and static. But some of us believed we were stagnating, dying slowly as a species. We sought contact with other races, hoping to find." She gestured to her transformed body. "This. Proof that we could adapt, grow, become something new." A sudden alarm blared through the ship. Raven rushed to the nearest console, her heart racing. 3 ships just dropped out of hyperspace. Energy signatures match your pursuers. Lyra's skin paled to an almost translucent state. "Hunter ships. They'll have tracked the genetic disturbance. My transformation is like a beacon to them." She stood, surprisingly steady despite her recent trauma. "You have to leave me. They'll destroy your ship to prevent the contamination from spreading." Raven's jaw set in a hard line. "That's not happening. You're my patient, and I don't abandon patients." She activated the ship's defensive systems, such as they were. The Mercy was a medical vessel, but it wasn't completely defenseless. "Besides, you're a breakthrough in xenobiology. The potential medical applications of your transformation could save countless lives." The deck shuddered as the first warning shot passed over their bow. Raven's fingers flew over the controls, plotting an escape vector. But before she could engage the engines, something extraordinary happened. Lyra pressed her hands against the ship's walls, and her crystalline formations began to glow with intense energy. Suddenly, Raven felt a new presence in the ship's systems. Lyra had somehow interfaced directly with the computer, her hybrid biology allowing her to communicate with both organic and mechanical systems. "I can help," Lyra's voice resonated through both the ship's speakers and Raven's mind. "My people's technology is based on crystalline computing. Your blood has given me new abilities, I can enhance your ship's systems." The Mercy's engines surged with newfound power. Screens flickered and transformed, displaying information in crystalline patterns that somehow made perfect sense to Raven's eyes. The ship moved with impossible grace, evading the hunter ship's attacks while plotting a course for safe harbor. But as they fled through space, Raven noticed something concerning. Each time Lyra interfaced with the ship, the crystalline formations on her body grew slightly larger, more complex. Her transformation wasn't stopping, it was accelerating. "Lyra," Raven called out, monitoring the alien's vital signs. "Your genetic structure is still changing. These new abilities, they're pushing your evolution even faster." Lyra turned to her, and Raven gasped. Threads of crystalline material now traced delicate patterns across her face, and her eyes held depths of knowledge that seemed almost infinite. "I know," she said softly. "I can feel myself becoming something else. Something that's never existed before." Her skin swirled with patterns of both fear and exhilaration. "The question is, will I still be myself when the transformation is complete?" As if in response to her words, the pursuing hunter ships launched a new volley of weapons, not to destroy, Raven realized with horror, but to capture. They didn't want to prevent the transformation anymore. They wanted to study it. "Hold on," Raven warned, taking manual control of the enhanced systems. "This is going to get complicated." She didn't know it yet, but that would prove to be the understatement of the century. Behind them, more hunter ships were appearing, drawn by whatever signal Lyra's evolving form was broadcasting across space. And ahead of them lay something even more dangerous, the unknown consequences of humanity's first true biological merger with an alien species. The real question wasn't whether Lyra would survive her transformation, it was whether the galaxy was ready for what she was becoming. The hunters. Deep in uncharted space, the Mercy drifted silently among a field of crystalline asteroids. The ship's enhanced systems, still thrumming with Lyra's modifications, had allowed them to evade the initial wave of hunter ships. But both Raven and her increasingly transformed patient knew they were merely buying time. "Tell me about them," Raven said softly, watching Lyra interface with the ship's sensors. The alien's crystalline formations now covered most of her back and arms, creating an intricate exoskeleton that pulsed with internal light. "Why are your own people hunting you with such determination?" Lyra's faceted eyes dimmed slightly, patterns of sorrow rippling across her metallic skin. "The hunters are the enforcement arm of the crystalline hierarchy," she explained, her dual-toned voice resonating through both air and mind. "For 10,000 years, they've maintained our species' genetic purity. Any deviation, any mutation, is seen as a threat to our perfect stasis." "Perfect stasis," Raven echoed, shaking her head. "Sounds more like perfect stagnation." "Exactly." Lyra's skin swirled with patterns of passionate conviction. "A group of us, scientists, philosophers, dreamers, began to realize our immortality had become a curse. Without change, without growth, we were becoming living fossils. We called ourselves the evolution seekers." A proximity alert suddenly blared through the ship. 3 hunter vessels had emerged from hyperspace, their crystalline hulls reflecting the starlight like faceted diamonds. But these ships were different from their pursuers, larger, more ancient in design. "Hierarchy juggernauts," Lyra whispered, her skin paling. "They've sent the Praetorians themselves." The massive ships began broadcasting on all frequencies, their message translated by the Mercy's enhanced systems. "Evolution Seeker Lyra, you have violated the fundamental laws of genetic purity. Your transformation must be studied and then purged. Surrender, and your human companion will be spared." Raven snorted. Generous of them. But Lyra wasn't listening. She stood transfixed, her crystalline formations vibrating with some kind of resonance. "I can hear them," she said, wonder and horror mixing in her voice. "All of them. The entire collective, they're watching through the Praetorian sensors. Watching me." The ship screens suddenly filled with images, crystalline cities floating in space, vast archives of knowledge stored in living crystal matrices, billions of beings frozen in eternal, unchanging perfection. The weight of 10,000 years of history pressed against Raven's mind through her growing psychic link with Lyra. "They're afraid," Lyra realized, her skin rippling with epiphany. "Not of me, but of what I represent. The proof that change is possible, that evolution didn't end with our ascension to crystalline form." She turned to Raven, her faceted eyes blazing. "Your blood didn't just save my life, it shattered their most fundamental belief." The Praetorian ships began to move, their weapons charging. But something was happening aboard the Mercy. Lyra's crystalline formations were growing, branching out to interface with more of the ship's systems. The hybrid technology she'd created was evolving, just as she was. "Raven," she said urgently, "I need more." "More what?" "More blood. More catalyst. The transformation isn't complete, and I can feel something waiting to emerge. Something that could change everything." Raven hesitated. Her first transfusion had already triggered unprecedented changes. Further genetic mixing could be catastrophic, or revolutionary. "It could kill you," she warned. Lyra's skin rippled with determined acceptance. "I'm already dead in their eyes. At least this way, my change might mean something." The Praetorian ships opened fire, their crystalline weapons firing beams of concentrated energy that began to systematically cut through the asteroid field. They were done negotiating. Raven made her decision. Racing to the medical bay, she began preparing for another transfusion. As she connected the lines to Lyra's transformed circulatory system, she asked the question that had been burning in her mind: why did you really seek evolution? What were you looking for? Lyra's answer came as the human blood began to flow into her hybrid veins: connection. Real connection. Our perfect crystalline forms made us eternal, but they also made us separate. Isolated. We forgot how to truly touch, to change, to grow together. Her skin began to pulse with intense light. Until now. The transformation began again, more powerful than before. But this time, something was different. The crystalline formations weren't just growing, they were reaching out, seeking connection not just with the ship's systems, but with reality itself. As the Praetorian ships closed in for the kill, neither Raven or Lyra could have predicted what was about to happen. The boundary between organic and crystalline, between flesh and technology, between individual and collective, was about to be rewritten. And the galaxy would never be the same. Revolution. The universe held its breath. In the space around the Mercy, reality itself seemed to waver as Lyra's transformation reached its pinnacle. Her crystalline formations had evolved beyond mere physical structures, they now existed in a state between matter and energy, organic and synthetic, present and potential. Raven watched in awe as her patient, her friend, became something unprecedented in the history of both their species. Lyra's form was now a shifting matrix of crystalline light, her consciousness expanded far beyond her original bounds. The second transfusion of human blood had catalyzed not just physical evolution, but a fundamental shift in the nature of her being. "I understand now," Lyra's voice resonated through multiple dimensions of space. "What we sought wasn't just biological evolution, it was transcendence from our self-imposed isolation." The Praetorian ships had ceased their attack, their sensors overwhelmed by the metamorphosis they were witnessing. Through their links to the crystalline collective, billions of minds were watching, their perfect stasis shaken by the possibility they were seeing. Suddenly, the void between ships filled with crystalline webs of light, a network of pure possibility flowing from Lyra's transformed state. Where these streams of hybrid energy touched the hunter ships, changes began to occur. Their rigid crystalline structures became fluid, organic patterns flowing through their previously static forms. "What's happening?" Raven asked, her scientific mind struggling to categorize what she was seeing. "I'm showing them what they've forgotten," Lyra explained, her voice carrying echoes of both human emotion and crystalline harmony. "The joy of change. The beauty of imperfection. The strength that comes from growing together rather than existing apart. Through their psychic link, Raven felt the shock waves of revelation spreading through the crystalline collective. 10,000 years of rigid hierarchy were being challenged not by weapons or words, but by the undeniable evidence of evolution's power. But the hierarchy wasn't going to fall without a fight. From the depths of space, more ships were arriving, not hunters this time, but purifiers, vessels designed to excise any trace of change from the collective's perfect order. They call themselves the preservers of purity, Lyra said, her energy form pulsing with concern. They would rather destroy their own kind than allow change to spread. The purifier ships unleashed weapons that bent space itself, trying to isolate and contain the transformation. But they had fatally misunderstood what they were facing. Lyra wasn't just a singular mutation anymore, she had become a bridge between species, between states of being. And she wasn't alone. Across the battlefield, hunter ships began to transform as their crews made their choice. The rigid crystalline forms of their vessels became organic synthetic hybrids, their weapons turning into tools of transformation rather than destruction. The evolution seekers were rising. Your blood, Lyra said to Raven, it wasn't just compatible with my biology. It carried something we had lost, the human capacity for constant adaptation, for embracing change as a source of strength rather than weakness. The space around them had become a swirling chaos of transformation and resistance. Ships battled through multiple dimensions as the collective split between those embracing evolution and those desperately clinging to their unchanging perfection. Raven worked frantically at the Mercy's controls, using the hybrid systems Lyra had created to keep them alive in the midst of the celestial civil war. But she could feel something larger approaching, a decision point that would determine not just Lyra's fate, but the future of both their species. They're coming, Lyra announced, her energy form condensing slightly. The architects, the original shapers of our crystalline ascension. They've awakened from their ancient stasis to witness what we've begun. Through the chaos of battle, massive forms began to emerge from hyperspace, vessels the size of small moons, their crystalline surfaces holding the accumulated power of millennia. The architects had returned to pass judgment on their children's evolution. But as Raven watched Lyra's transformed being pulse with both human vitality and crystalline power, she realized something crucial: judgment was no longer theirs to give. Evolution, once started, could not be stopped, only guided. The true test wasn't whether change would come to the crystalline collective, but whether they could learn what humanity had known all along, that true strength lies not in perfect stasis, but in the ability to adapt, to grow, and most importantly, to do so together. As the architects approached, Raven and Lyra prepared to show them this truth, knowing that the next few moments would determine the course of both their civilizations. The revolution of evolution was about to face its greatest challenge. New dawn. The architects' arrival had turned space itself into a canvas of crystalline light. Their ancient vessels, each one a city-sized monument to unchanging perfection, formed a ring around the battlefield where evolution and stasis clashed. The transformed hunter ships and their purifier opponents hung suspended, waiting to see how these eldest of the crystalline collective would respond to Lyra's unprecedented evolution. Lyra's hybrid form pulsed with both anticipation and resolution. Her energy matrix, born from the merger of human blood and crystalline biology, had stabilized into something both beautiful and impossible, a bridge between opposing states of existence. "They're scanning me," she communicated to Raven through their strengthened psychic link. "The architects, they're seeing everything. Our connection, the transformation, all of it." The largest of the architect vessels began to emit a resonance that shook the fabric of space-time. Through the Mercy's enhanced systems, Raven could perceive their message: "This deviation threatens the perfect order we spent eons creating. The human contamination must be purged." But before they could act, Lyra did something unprecedented. She expanded her consciousness not just to the other ships or even the watching collective, but to the architects themselves. Through the hybrid network she had created, she shared not just data or thoughts, but experience, the raw, vital sensation of what it meant to change, to grow, to truly live. The effect was electric. The architect's perfect crystalline forms began to vibrate with long-forgotten frequencies. Memories, stored in the deepest layers of their ancient consciousness, began to surface, memories of what they had been before their ascension to crystalline form, memories of growth and change and connection. You didn't create perfection, Lyra's voice resonated through all frequencies. You created stasis. And in doing so, you forgot the most fundamental truth of existence, that life itself is change. Through their link, Raven added her own voice, and change isn't weakness, it's the ultimate expression of strength. The space around them began to transform. The hybrid energy that Lyra had unleashed was affecting even the architect's ancient vessels, not destroying their crystalline nature but awakening something that had long slumbered within it, the capacity for growth. But one faction of the architects refused this awakening. Their ships began to power weapons that could unmake the very fabric of spacetime, determined to excise this contamination, no matter the cost. It was in this moment that Lyra and Raven's connection reached its true potential. Through their shared bond, they had created not just a biological hybrid, but a template for a new kind of existence, one that preserved the strengths of both species while transcending their limitations. Show them, Raven urged, offering her hand to Lyra's luminescent form. Show them what we've become together. Their touch sparked a cascade of transformation. The hybrid network Lyra had created expanded exponentially, carrying with it not just the possibility of change, but the experience of connection. Every being touched by this wave, hunter, purifier, even the resistant architects, felt for a moment what it meant to be simultaneously individual and united, static and evolving, perfect and gloriously imperfect. The effect rippled through the crystalline collective like a shockwave of awakening. Across their vast civilization, the rigid patterns of stasis began to shift and flow. Not breaking, but becoming fluid, alive, capable of growth while maintaining their essential nature. The weapons of the resistant architects never fired. Their crews, touched by this wave of transformation, chose evolution over extinction. The ancient vessels began to change, their crystalline surfaces flowing like liquid light as they adapted to their awakened state. In the aftermath, as the transformed ships hung in space like a new constellation, Lyra's form coalesced into something permanent, neither fully crystalline nor fully organic, but a living bridge between states of being. Her faceted eyes, now holding depths of both human warmth and crystalline wisdom, met Raven's. What happens now? Raven asked, looking out at the changed fleet. Now, Lyra replied, her voice carrying harmonics of joy and possibility, we truly begin to live. Not as separate species seeking perfection, but as fellow travelers on the path of evolution. Her form pulsed with gentle light. Your blood didn't just save my life, it reminded an entire civilization what it means to be truly alive. The Mercy's enhanced systems detected new signals emerging across space, other evolution seekers, inspired by what they had witnessed, beginning their own transformations. The revolution they had started would ripple across the galaxy, not as a wave of destruction, but as an invitation to growth. Raven smiled, watching the crystalline ships begin to move in new patterns, no longer rigid and separate but flowing together like a dance of light. So much for a routine medical mission, she mused. There's nothing routine about evolution, Lyra responded, her hybrid form synchronizing with the ship's systems in ways that were both familiar and entirely new. Or about hope. Together, they watched the dawn of a new era unfold before them, one where the boundary between human and alien, organic and crystalline, individual and collective had become not a wall, but a bridge. The future they had created would be neither perfect nor unchanging, but it would be alive with possibilities neither species could have imagined alone. And somewhere in the vast depths of space, a single drop of human blood continued to change the universe, one connection at a time.